How's it going, guys? ShizuCats here with part 3 of my COTC guide series. Today I'll be going over everything you need to know about the basics of battle, leveling up, and advancing through the skill board. This is going to be a pretty lengthy video, so if you know exactly what you're looking for, go ahead and use the timestamps in the video description or in the comment section to find what you need. Otherwise, grab a snack and a drink, sit back, enjoy the show, and hopefully learn a thing or two. As always, if you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Now, let's get started. First, let's take a look at the battle interface before we get into any of the finer details. Over on the right, we have our team. Listed here are our HP and SP. HP is our health points, and if a character reaches 0 HP, they are knocked out and are unusable for the remainder of the fight. SP is a resource used for casting skills, kinda like mana or MP. Additionally, you will also see a symbol representing the character's class and some little orange dots. These orange dots represent boost points, or BP for short, which brings us to our first defining mechanic of Octopath's battle system, boost. Characters gain 1 BP every turn and can hold up to 5 at once. During any given turn, a character has the option of spending up to 3 BP to augment their action for the turn. This can be done by holding your finger down on the action and then sliding to the right. Additionally, if a character uses any number of BP on their turn, they do not gain 1 BP on the following turn. BP affects different types of actions in different ways. For example, if you boost a regular attack, it will increase the number of times your character throws out regular attacks, up to a maximum of 4 hits. Boosting damage nuke skills will increase the power, boosting heals will increase their potency, and boosting buffs or debuffs will increase their duration. It's important to know how to best utilize your BP throughout your battles in order to maximize efficiency. Next, let's take a look at the enemy side. Enemies in Octopath will have a series of weapon types or elements below them, which indicate their weaknesses. Initially, they start out hidden, but once you strike each weakness for the first time, those weaknesses will be revealed forever. To the left, you can see a shield with a number on it. These are the enemy's shield points, which brings us to the second major mechanic of Octopath's battle system, break. When you strike an enemy's weak point, you will do much higher damage with roughly a 2.5 times multiplier, and additionally, their shield points will reduce by 1 for each hit. When the enemy's shield points reach 0, they enter a state of break for the remainder of the turn, and the entire turn afterwards, during which they cannot act and also take double damage from your attacks. Once the period of break ends, their shield points will return to their original starting number, and the enemy will always get the first action of the next turn. Unlike in the original Octopath Traveler, the weakness multiplier still applies when the enemy is in break, so you're still going to want to attack them with whatever they're weak to, rather than just attacking them with any random weapon or element. Between these two systems, Octopath has a deep and strategic battle system with a lot of room for skill expression. You'll often be asking yourself questions like, how many times should I hit the enemy this turn? Should I boost now or save it for later? Here's a few quick general tips to help you out as you start out on Octopath CotC. First, generally your offensive BP usage should go to one of two things, either boosting regular attacks to hit the enemy multiple times, or for boosting big nukes once the enemy is successfully broken. Finding the right balance between the two is crucial, and whenever you're not using BP on a given turn, you're more than likely using some sort of multi-hit skill. COTC has much greater emphasis on multi-hitting than in the original, so characters will often be judged by their capacity to hit multiple times with a single action. Second, enemies' weaknesses always follow a specific order: sword, spear, dagger, axe, bow, staff, tome, fan, and then for elements, fire, ice, lightning, wind, light, and finally dark. Memorizing this list can be a bit overwhelming at first, but can come in very handy when fighting new enemies. For example, if an enemy is weak to spear and axe with a space in the middle, you know that that enemy must be weak to daggers as well, since that's the only weapon type that goes between spear and axe in the order. Third, when going for a break, the best time to break an enemy is typically with the very first action of a turn. This allows you to get the most actions in while that enemy remains in break. Consider leaving an enemy at 1 shield on the turn before, so that you can get maximum value out of a break initiated on the following turn. Thieves are great units for this, as they have shield crack abilities that ignore enemy weaknesses, and are very fast, allowing you to easily initiate a break at the start of the turn. Speaking of turns, let's take a look at how turns work. In the top left corner, you can see the turn order for the current turn as well as the turn after. It's pretty easy to understand. Whoever is farthest to the left will go first, and the farthest to the right will go last. That being said, there are a few important details about turns that differ from the original Octopath Traveler, so let's go over each of those. First, speed is absolute in this game. A character with 301 speed will always go before a character with 300 speed. It's like Pokemon in that sense. This allows for certain compositions and strategies to be 100% consistent, and also allows for planning around enemy speeds as well. Second, all of your character's actions are queued simultaneously. You select which ability you want each of your characters to use, and then when you hit the attack button, the entire turn will play out automatically. A side effect of this type of system is that abilities that buff or debuff speed do not take effect during the current turn and only start taking effect the turn after. Looking at the bottom part of our screen, we have several buttons. Now, before we talk about this diamond on the far left, let's first take a look at the other buttons lining the bottom of your screen. First, we have options. This will bring up a submenu that lists various options in battle that can be turned on or off. Now, I'm not sure whether this submenu was the same in EN as it is in JP, but I'm going to be going off the JP submenu for this video. The first option is action memory. When this is turned on, whatever action you perform will be retained for the following turn. This allows you to use the same skill multiple turns in a row without having to re-click it. When turned off, your action will default to attack at the start of each turn. I recommend having this turned on. A lot of the time in this game, we will be using skills rather than basic attacks, especially once our SP pools get larger and we can use skills every turn without having to worry about running out of SP. The second setting is retain party formation. When this is turned on, your characters will retain whatever row they were in at the end of the last battle. For example, let's say I entered a fight with Viola in my front row, but at the end of the battle, Lynette was in my front row instead. If I go to my party menu after the battle, we'll see that Lynette is now in the front row. I recommend having this turned off. When I set up a party a specific way, I typically do so for a reason, and that includes certain characters starting the battle in the front or back row. This can also be very impactful with Lynette specifically, since she has to swap rows to activate her passives. I plan on doing a video dedicated specifically on how to properly utilize Lynette, so stay tuned for that. The fourth option is Vibrate. Pretty self-explanatory. I have this one turned off. The third option has to do with your targeting mode. To understand what this button does, we need to talk about that diamond that I skipped over earlier in the bottom left corner. The diamond indicates what your current targeting mode is. A red diamond that reads Focus means that by default, all of your characters are targeting the same enemy, while a yellow diamond that reads Individual means that your characters are each able to target whoever they want. While this setting is turned on, your characters will always be in the red focus mode unless you click on a character and bring up their skills, and then you will be allowed to target enemies on a character-by-character basis. I prefer having this setting turned off, and when it's turned off, you can click on the diamond to toggle between focus and individual mode. The reason I prefer this being turned off is so that you can't accidentally click on an enemy that you didn't want to target. Moving along the bottom, we have the 2x button. This simply makes the battle animations run faster. I have this turned on at all times, as when it's turned off, the flow of battle is pretty slow. Next we have Flee. This is pretty self-explanatory. It allows you to run away from battle. Running away is guaranteed in COTC, so you don't have to worry about getting stuck and taking unnecessary extra damage. After that is the Allies menu. Here you can access any NPC supports that you have recruited via path actions. NPC supports have various effects depending on who you bring with you. They can serve as a nuker, a bit of extra shield breaking, buffing, debuffing, and healing. Also, I've hit the Flee button by accident when I meant to hit the Allies button more times than I'd like to admit. As far as the functionality of the allies when you call them into battle, they will always be the last action of the turn, so keep that in mind when you're trying to incorporate them into your strategies. Next is the Switch All button. This sets up all front row allies to swap with all of the back row allies, whose default action will be the attack command. If you have any allies that are queued to swap with the ally in the back row, hitting the Switch All button will instead cancel all of the queued swaps. If you hit the Switch All button twice in quick succession, it's a fast and easy way to reset all of your character's actions back to the attack command. Finally, we have the Boost All button. As the name implies, this prompts all of your allies to boost their current action as much as they can. The Switch All and Boost All buttons are your best friends if you want to simply breeze through weak encounters. Hit Boost All, attack, then on the next turn, Switch All, Boost All, attack, rinse and repeat. Now let's take a look at the skill interface for a single character. When you click on a character's info box, that is, the box that contains their HP and SP, it'll bring up their skills. You can choose which action you want to use by simply clicking on it, but by holding the action down, it will display the information for the skill off to the left. Additionally, you can boost the skill by dragging your finger to the right. The further to the right you drag, the more BP you will use to boost the skill up to the maximum of 3 BP. Each character is allowed to bring up to 3 skills at a time unless they're Awakening 2, in which case they can bring up to 4. I'll cover Awakening in another video though. At the bottom of the skill menu is the swap button, which allows a single character to swap with the character behind them. This will then bring up the other allies' list of actions for you to choose from. Characters in the front row are the ones that are subject to incoming damage. A character in the back row normally cannot take damage unless they are afflicted with a status condition such as bleed or poison. In addition, a character in the back row will regenerate 10% of their maximum HP and SP each turn. For this reason, it's important to know when to swap allies between the front and back row to make sure everyone in the party is healthy and has enough SP to cast their abilities. You've probably also noticed that there are no in-battle items, nor does there seem to be any way to revive an incapacitated ally. On both of those accounts, you are correct. There are no in-battle items, so all of your healing must come from skills, and KO'd allies are out for the rest of the fight. For that reason, healing, especially regen healing, is quite a premium in COTC, so it's recommended that you secure a healer as soon as you can. The best available healers on release are obviously the 5 stars, who are Teo and Millard, but don't be afraid to look to the 4 stars as healing options as well. Ramona, Cedric, Menno, and even Mina can all do a pretty good job of keeping your team healthy. Eventually, there will be units added to the game that have revive skills, but take my word for it, it's not as amazing as you think it is. The fact that revive takes up an ability slot can actually be cloggy when there are other potential skill options that you can take. That being said, it's still a nice option to have around, and I figured it's important to let you guys know what you can expect from the future as well as give you my quick opinion on it. With that, let's transition next to how leveling works in this game. Unlike in the original Octopath Traveler where levels were much less significant, levels actually do mean quite a bit in this game. One of the main reasons is because your level dictates the strength of the equipment that you're allowed to put on your characters. Weapons and armor are very simple in this game. They have a level and they have their stats. 99% of the time, weapons and armor of higher level will always be stronger than those of lower level, so you don't really have to worry about things like stat trade-offs or side grades or anything like that. Basically, the higher level your characters are, the higher level equipment they can use, and the stronger they will be. The level cap of your characters depends on their rarity. 3-star characters have a default level cap of 40, 4 stars have a default level cap of 60, and 5-star characters have a default cap of 80. However, these caps can be increased by up to 20 levels to 60, 80, and 100 respectively. The way you increase these level caps is by using guide stones. Increasing characters' levels starts with a relatively low number of guide stones. For example, increasing the cap by 1 requires only 20. However, the amount needed will continue to rise, requiring as many as 200 guide stones to increase the cap from plus 19 to plus 20. In total, you would need 2,000 guide stones to increase a character's level cap from the default level cap up to its maximum. Of course, just increasing the level cap isn't enough, you still need to get the experience points needed to reach that level as well. EXP can be received by killing enemies just like in any RPG, but you also have access to experience nuts, consumable items that give instant EXP to a single character. There are many different grades of nuts, and the higher the grade, the more EXP it will give. Some of the highest grade nuts that are available in JP, but probably won't be in EN for a while, can give as much as 250,000, 500,000, or even 1 million EXP for a single nut. There are also level up berries which function exactly like rare candy in Pokemon. They increase your level by 1. These are far and few between though, so it's recommended to save these for the highest levels, which require the most EXP. For reference, going from level 99 to 100 requires a whopping 6.1 million EXP. When you reach the level cap, you can bank up to 1 level's worth of EXP towards the next level. Once you unlock the next level, if you've banked enough experience, the amount of EXP needed to hit the next level will just be 1 EXP. Next, let's take a look at the skill board, as this is another big change between the original Octopath Traveler and COTC. Every time your character levels up, they gain JP, job points, whereas in the original, you got JP by killing enemies. These points can be spent to advance through the character's skill board, similar to the sphere grid system in Final Fantasy X if you've ever played that. The number of skill boards a character has access to corresponds to the character's rarity. A 3-star character will have access to 3 boards, a 4-star character will have access to 4, and a 5-star character will have access to 5. If the character is a 3.5 star or 4.5 star, the final board will be locked until you can get a class up for the character and turn them into a full 4 or 5 star unit. Once you have all the necessary items, you can actually perform the class up itself by going to the character's final board, where you will be prompted to perform the class up. To go from one board to the next, there's a point on each board that connects to the next one, as seen by the line here that continues off screen. Advancing through the board is very simple. In order to unlock a node, you must have unlocked one of the nodes adjacent to it, and then you spend JP to unlock the node. The amount of JP required to unlock varies depending on how big the bonus is. Smaller bonuses on the first few boards cost 1 JP per node, while on the 4th and 5th boards, there are nodes that cost multiple JP to unlock. Let's take a quick look at some of the various bonuses that you can unlock on these boards. The basic stats are self-explanatory. You have HP and SP, which are both self-explanatory. Attack is indicated by the fist. The more attack you have, the more weapon-based damage you will deal. Defense is indicated by the fist next to a shield. Magic is indicated by the staff icon and dictates how much elemental-based damage you will deal, as well as how much your characters heal. In the original Octopath, healing was based on magic defense instead of magic, so just keep that difference in mind. Speaking of magic defense, it's indicated by the staff and shield icon. Speed is indicated by the boot, and finally crit chance is represented by these two 8-pointed starish icons. Influence is a non-combat stat. Every character has a base influence value in one of the game's 3 influences: wealth, power, and fame. By increasing your character's influences, it lets you raise the overall influence level of your account, as indicated here in the top right corner of the party menu. Influence is mainly used for 2 things. The first is to get NPCs to talk to you. If your influence level is too low, you cannot perform path actions on certain NPCs until you raise it to the appropriate level. The second thing influence is used for is getting additional rewards in subjugation dungeons, which is a topic we'll come back to in a later video. As for the orange and purple nodes, these pertain to in-battle skills and passives respectively. Every character has a unique set of boards that have various bonuses scattered around them, but the overall locations of skills and passives always remain the same. The first board will always contain 1 ability and 1 major passive. The second board will always contain 2 abilities. The third board has 1 ability, 1 major passive, and 1 elemental resist passive, which gives a small percentage resistance to a certain element. After that, the 4th board has 1 ability and 1 elemental resist passive, and the 5th and final board has the last 2 abilities and 1 elemental resist passive. Here are a couple very common questions that players ask about the skill board. 1. Can you undo unlocks on the skill board? No, you cannot. Once you unlock a node, you unlocked it permanently and the JP are permanently spent. 2. Do you get enough JP to eventually unlock every node on the skill board? Yes. The amount of JP you get on a level up depends on what level you're going up to. For levels 1 through 9, you will get 1 JP per level up, but on level 10 you will get +2 instead, and then it goes back to +1 for levels 11 through 19. Later on, you will start getting 2 JP every time you level up, and even later, you'll start getting 3 or even more JP per level up. The total number of JP you will have at level 100 for a 5-star character is 196, which is exactly enough to unlock every single node on the board exactly. A third common question is, why are some of these nodes locked even though I've unlocked the node next to it? Some nodes require you to hit specific level requirements that are past the default level cap. For example, this node requires that your character reach level 81. These locked nodes on the final board require your character to reach level 99 and 100 respectively. Some of these locked nodes apply bonuses to your skills, usually in the form of a 20% SP cost reduction, but sometimes you'll see bonuses like increased power, increased buff duration, or even increased debuff potency. For 3-star characters, they will receive a buff to their final skill upon hitting level 60. For 4 stars, they receive buffs to their last 2 skills at levels 72 and 80. Finally, for 5 stars, they receive buffs to their last 4 skills at levels 88, 96, 99, and 100. I'd argue that the most important locked node to unlock is 10 levels past the default cap, that is, level 50 for 3 stars, 70 for 4 stars, and 90 for 5 stars. This node gives 1 extra starting BP, which can open up a lot of power early on in fights, and is even essential for certain strategies. Additionally, 5-star units have a node on their 5th board that gives +1 starting BP as well, and doesn't require hitting a specific level threshold in order to unlock. You just have to unlock one of the adjacent nodes and then you're good to go. These +1 BP nodes are extremely powerful, potentially allowing your 5-star units to start the fight with 3 BP. Alright, I think that just about covers all the basics that I wanted to touch on regarding these subjects. If there's something that I didn't cover, it might be because I'm saving it for a future video, but also I might have just forgotten, so feel free to ask any questions that you might have in the comment section below. Up next, I'm probably going to have the dailies and weeklies guide, since the game is pretty much going to be out already by the next upload, and I want you guys to have an idea of how the dailies and weeklies work, and the optimal ways to complete those. After that will be the 4-star character guide. Thanks again to all of you for watching, and until next time, this has been Shizukats. See ya!